Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? A couple of domestic things. The fire exits are here, here, and here, clearly marked, and there are no planned fire alarms for today. Toilets are at the back of the hall, if anyone doesn't know, and we're going to start proceedings with a short video about how amazing Angus Council is. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone, and good afternoon to those of you who have been here since 5 o'clock this morning. And for those of you who were still here at midnight last night, you are living proof that existing on 4 hours sleep can actually happen. We'll see you about 3 o'clock today, stuffing cake into your mouth to keep yourselves awake, no doubt. I'm Margot Williamson. I have the great pleasure of being the Chief Executive of this organisation. Angus Council is amazing. What a great video. What a fantastic video displaying all the things that we do in 1 year. Huge amount of things in terms of how we serve our public. We need to be and should be incredibly proud of what we do. So, the next 2 days, we're going to be doing bits of work across moving from our sharing success, as we did a couple of years ago, to shaping the future. We will all be aware that we are shaping the future around economy, people and place. Our plans are set out in that direction, but plans are just plans. We need to bring these things alive. And your help, your involvement, your participation will make all the difference for the people of Angus, and that's why these 2 days are incredibly special. Clearly, we face many challenges, but as we move forward and as we see from examples today of work that's going on and work that we can see that we will then embrace and take forward in the future, it gives us the opportunity to be innovative, creative, and also quite an exciting place to be. This means embracing digital channels, and you can see all the displays that are currently on the go at the moment tell you exactly how things are going presently in a digital way rather than with paper. It means that we are sharing our ambition to be a digital council by 2020. And of course, we will still work with those who need support to be digitally enabled. But we've also got to encourage folk to take this opportunity to move forward in a different way so they can access services in a better way, but at a time that suits them. Often we focus on a very small proportion of the population who still want things to be the way they are. We forget that a huge proportion of our people living in Angus, actually I think it's about 63% of them, are in full-time employment. And like me, they want to do their payments, their online banking, everything in a digital way in the evening or at the weekend at a time that suits them, as opposed to having to go to an office. There's nothing worse than getting a letter in to say you have to be somewhere at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, particularly if you've got diaries like we do. So the digital enablement agenda is one that's important for a huge, huge proportion of our citizens. So today and tomorrow we have a full programme of speakers, both in our main hall and in our Sharing Ideas studio, which is just behind these curtains. It looks fantastic. It's like looking at a TED Talk, and I'm sure they'll be of that kind of quality. Please take time to speak to your colleagues around the room who have set up different stations displaying what they do and how they see the ambition in the future of what they do being described to the communities within Angus. Please blast social media and let the world know what we're doing in Angus, which is really exciting and innovative. Don't be shy. Use the hashtag, get the information out there, whether you're using Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. But let's tell the world that what's going on here is really exciting and different. If you're going back to your workplace, nudge, push, cajole any of your colleagues who are sitting too busy to come over the 2 days, and tell them to drop in even for an hour or 2 hours, to give them a sense of what they're part of, because we are all part of this, and it is a great thing to be part of. So to overcome the challenges we face, we need to invest our time and energy in shaping our future, and it's better that we do that together. We've talked for a while now about being a smaller, more sustainable council. That is why we are spending time with colleagues in Perth and Kinross and Dundee City to look at what we could do together in terms of sharing services, to ensure that we keep the quality as high as it could be, and to ensure we're not duplicating effort. We're copying and learning from the best practice that's there. Our community planning partnership is working tirelessly with our communities to help them help themselves. And all of us have to encourage communities to take on more as we contract and do less. But we can do that, and we've got great examples in Angus already of where there's been huge success in this area. So, you want me to get off the stage and actually get on to what the business is about. So I'll do that. It gives me huge pleasure to open this event. A huge thanks, and I know we don't often say thanks at the beginning, but a huge, huge thanks to everybody here who's been involved in putting this together. I know it's going to be a fabulous 2 days that we'll talk about for many, many months to come. Our first main speaker is Andrew Grant, who's the Chief Executive in Aylesbury Vale Council, and he is going to be the first speaker of the day, giving us some of his reflections, thoughts, ideas about what he's been doing in his council. So can you please welcome Andrew?
Thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. And for someone with the surname Grant, I hope you've noted that coming home has been a very special thing for me. That Grandad left and went to Portsmouth, and now I'm back. Actually, 50 years ago, just a little story to start with. As a 8-year-old, 9-year-old nearly, I caught my first sea trout, actually my only sea trout, in the river, in the frozen water up at Cortaquay, is it right? We were staying on a farm, and that has nothing to do with my talk. I just thought I would get to know you a bit and get some local relevance. But it's very special, particularly as Margot's taken you through your, to reflect back to you quite what an amazing and complex job you do and what we do. And it often is very difficult when, you're speaking to your neighbours or your friends that you bring round to dinner and they say, what do you do? And you say you work for the council, and then, the tumbleweed comes through and suddenly everything goes dried up. But it's very hard to do what you do, and it's even harder to do it as well as you do it. And what I'm going to tell you in the next few minutes, and for those who didn't want to be here anyway and have to get back or have got a short attention span, the summary is you can go from surviving to thriving, and you can achieve that. And the 4 main planks of those, of doing that the way we've done it, and I think we have been successful, but you judge later, is largely around culture, the digital platform, leveraging the trust that your customers have in you, even though sometimes they say bloody council when they should be saying cool Angus, and using existing business models that are freely available in the private sector that do come across into the public sector where appropriate. And it's not, that these things can't read across, and I'm sure you're looking at those things already. But perhaps a quote, I looked up a quote about thriving and striving, and I don't know who Jumet Cascio is, but I'm sure, if I put Andrew Grant on Twitter, they wouldn't know who I was. But it just, I think, sums up what I want to be really talking about, is resilience is all about being able to overcome the unexpected. And I'm sure you're doing that every day. The rise in the number of older, well people, a general election, Brexit, and we're here still to provide services. Sustainability is about survival, so you must survive first, otherwise you can't help your customers. And the goal of resilience is to thrive, not just to merely survive. It's not good enough just to hang on for dear life. The idea is that we will grow and thrive. So, who am I? Who is this guy? Why is he here? He's got a Scottish name, but that's not enough. And I'll just get my digitally enabled version of my slides. Well, I've been a chief executive for, over 20 years, 12 of those in Aylesbury Vale. It's a large district of about 200,000 population. It's 360 square miles. Is that sort of Angus size? You're probably very large geographically. We've got a larger population, but we're actually two-tier. We have a county council that does social care and the highways, and we do the more important bits, well, the homelessness, housing, waste, and all the other things that you also do. And we aspire to be an all-purpose council. But just to let you know that we are two-tier in much of England, but we have a large and growing population. So we have a lot of people with expectations about growing and thriving in a beautiful part of Buckinghamshire. So it's like here, very, very lovely. I've been transforming Aylesbury from a traditionally funded local authority to a social enterprise. That's what I'd like to do. To make profits, yes, more than the income. Income isn't income unless you're actually making more than you cost, and drive those profits forward to those services that will never be charged at the point of delivery, because they can't be or shouldn't be. So very much a social enterprise model is the ambition. So whizzing on. I know Margot's quite a fan of Simon Sinek, so I didn't know that beforehand, but now I'm trying to get in her good books to say I'm actually repeating things she's already told you. He's a very thoughtful young man, I'll say young man compared to me, in America. He starts with why. Your customers and our customers, because they're paying tax, they're having interactions with you that they make value judgments about, they buy from the best organizations where they understand the why of the organization, even commercial ones. John Lewis Partnership or the best shops, the local bakery, you go back because of the service you get. You understand why they exist. They're there to create great, great loaves of bread or, great products. That's the what and the how. How they do it, anyone can do. But why something happens is to do with you. The kind of thought processes and the effort you put into creating the trust around Angus. You're not just anywhere, you're not Dundee Council, you're not Perth and Kinross, you're not Aberdeen Council, you are you. And there is a why of why you do that. And that's going to come through in everything you do. So I start with that. I start with purpose, because digital, if you just add digital to the sort of processes that aren't working, and you don't understand why your customers want the services you provide, or even don't like them and have told you and you don't do anything about it, all that does is speed up a very bad process. You'd be better off with a paper and pencil doing something really good. But digital can add and scale fantastic, amazing councils to even greater heights. And it's all about confronting the brutal facts or brutal truth. This is Good to Great, one of my other favorite books, Jim Collins. And one of the things he says is the best businesses confront what's not going well. Look at Kodak when they created digital. They didn't use it, and then they went bust. Northamptonshire County Council didn't listen to their residents and didn't try to take too much tax out of the system, and they fell over. It's about understanding, that would be quite an interesting thing, falling off the back of the stage this time in the morning. Confronting the brutal facts isn't trying to say that all are surmountable, but it's actually accepting that these things are there and they need to be challenged. They need to be internalized and understood and dealt with rather than tried to be avoided. So have strong faith, but continue to confront the facts, be it resource problems in social care or difficulties in communicating to people, why you're having to make changes that they don't like. It's basically absorbing it and then finding edges to actually make that something that you can thrive on. What does brutal facts mean? Well, they're just facts. Sometimes we try and avoid what's happening. We don't predict, forecast, look at insight onto where our communities, where our resources are going, and then make changes well in advance of it actually hitting us. Local government is very good at saying, what happened just there? And that's not fair, and we're going to march up to Westminster and tell them it's not fair, or to Holyrood and tell them it's not fair. Actually, it's our job to predict and provide for those changes and to be agile. So I'm just preparing, sorry, that's my phone. Because life is volatile, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. That describes perfectly local government to me. In fact, that's been the way for well before austerity. A new act of Parliament comes out, you have to deal with. You haven't got the resources. You've got changes in the political dimension that you didn't predict. And the way that you respond to that isn't to sort of get under the duvet and decide that it's all too difficult. It's to respond in what's called a VUCA prime way, which is you clarify your vision and you get real with the real circumstances, the brutal facts, and you focus on those absolutely to the point where they're resolved. You don't miss that. You bring it into your vision. It's not an airy-fairy vision that our council will be lovely and everywhere's got that vision, but what specifically are you going to do about these issues, and by when, and how will you measure it? What sort of clarity can your leadership give to your people that are working hard but don't know where they're doing the day job, as Margot said, but how do the day jobs add up to not just being, incremental day jobs until you do fail? How do you give clarity to people and often deal with the difficulties, but accept them? Understand what's coming and understand your community's needs, your customers' needs, but also staff needs, and build them in. And finally, create an agile culture, because culture is everything. It's not just about digital and techniques. If you add that digital to a culture that doesn't want to be agile and respond to those changes, all you'll do is have a very expensive IT bill and no change at all. So vision, clarity, understanding and agility are antidotes to volatility, uncertainty, complex and ambiguous world. You can't alter everything, but you can take control of what you're doing when the rest of the world seems out of kilter. Does that resonate with you? That feels like it's some sort of plan rather than just accepting the changes and drifting. Very, very good slide. Actually, this is from the sort of the technology world. Forrester do a lot of research around digital trends, but I think this applies to the world that we're in. Now, what this is trying to describe, the sort of white curve, is that people's expectations in digital world are exponential. The people are actually on their apps. The people are ahead of you already. As Margot said, they're getting the kids to school. Have they done the packed lunch? Mum's in hospital 200 miles up the road. I've got to get these things done. I've got to get to work. Their day is basically, I don't know any of us hasn't got a phone that's threading those things through their day by either apps that help them through that or, connections they know, people in the know. They're getting their day done, and we don't want to add more complexity to that. But people's expectations of how fast that can work are going exponential. I see that there's a travel agent in the high street. Who last went to the travel agent to book their holiday? Hands up. One. Well, there needs to be one. Because you get service. Did you go on holiday there? Yes, you can actually talk to them, and that's actually a valuable business model to add value to the sale. That's why there is a high street version. The rest of us think, well, I've either been there before or my friend's been there. What's the cheapest deal? Get on Expedia or all those kayak and get the deal. And if you didn't get the tickets literally in your inbox within 30 seconds, you're going to, even less, you're going to be pretty grumpy. 10 years ago, you'd have probably thought, well, they'll come in the post, And 20 years ago, you'd have gone and only gone to the travel agent to book it because you didn't trust, So we're exponential. And if you think of how, care needs, people getting older, staying well longer, their needs more complex, it feels like, the future's racing ahead very fast. And a lot of us, the dotted lines are where we do planning. You've got your corporate plans. Who's got their corporate plan out lately, dusted it off? Did you realise the dates were actually 1987 to 1993 when you got it out? Maybe you didn't. Often we look at the future and you think it's linear. It will do what it did next year, what it did last year. Whereas your customers and the world has changed exponentially, so you're already behind the curve. The difference between that dotted line and the future one. And then you do a workshop with your leaders, and then you readjust the future to an even more linear, hope linear. And you're still way off where the curve's gone and your customers have gone. And in the world of commercial, the reason why the startups jump from not existing to being to the left of the exponential curve is they don't have the baggage of corporates and systems and governance. They just get in there and start getting literally a stall in the high street and selling the things that people want to buy. So we've got to get into a mindset that can leap governance-wise, our decision makers, our politicians, from something that they think they're doing really well by going hope, but it's just more linear and not exponential. So it's just a thought that that's how digital's working, it's how your customers are already in this space to the left of the curve. They've already left the building and 200 miles down the road. You trying to grab them back, as Margot says, is actually, could you come back at 2 o'clock because we will be open then? It doesn't compute, even with people that are used to that, the golden age of going down the council and waiting with their tie and jacket to see the manager. that is a different world, and that's something that we internally have got to reflect the outside world, not get them to adapt quicker to our one. So what we were facing was this sort of massive cut in grant, which we predicted. We started in austerity was 28, 29. We predicted in England grants would go by 2020. That's all the 15, 20 million pounds of grant coming in, gone. So what we're going to do and keep services going. Cost of services going up, you've got failure. Northamptonshire County Council, I rest my case. That could happen in Scotland. I think it's probably less likely because you've got a devolved administration managing some of your cost and spend, but as you know, you will have had degrees of cuts over years, and cuts and cuts and cuts. It does lead to failure, and the accelerated cuts lead to accelerated failure. But I wanted to look at new income streams that meant I could do the services that people absolutely needed at the point of delivery that possibly couldn't pay for, but by animating all the great things we've got that could be paid for to push that forward. There's 200 services that you do, many of which are in the doldrums in terms of added value to people that people would spend, and I'll tell you how they did with us. So what we've sort of pitched ourselves, we didn't really want to do a lot of this. And yes, in the first 5 years, it was all efficiencies, cuts, doing the same thing but cut 10% out. Eventually, you will go out of business because you won't be able to open the doors because, you can't pay your receptionist or there's not enough electricity bills being paid. It will go bang well above zero because you've got a cost to be in business, and that's several million pounds worth of people costs and asset costs, well before you've literally run out of cash. Look at Carillion. So we've added a third leg, which is income generation, which isn't evil. That's just adding more and more service it offers to your customers for which they're quite happy to pay. They're not locked into a council tax rictus of that's it. In fact, most people think that's robbed off them anyway. I mean, who wants to pay more tax? Who wants to pay more tax? Even if you can get more dolphins and fluffy things. No one wants to pay, but they think actually they're paying more or less for everything already. So you can't scale council tax. It's not scalable. I mean, I think you'd have to put it up by 50% to get back to the sort of income levels you had a few years ago. So it's not going to happen by just wanting tax to go up a lot. It's not going to happen by just efficiencies alone, although that's important. All businesses will keep efficient. You've got to start thinking a business model is about income generation and embrace it, even though politically it's been, perhaps that's not what you think you're here for. So government grant actually has 2018 has gone to virtually zero, and in England we'll be having to make money and send it elsewhere in England because there'll be negative grant. How about that? You haven't had that in Scotland, where basically you have to generate income that doesn't stay in the area, it goes somewhere else, because to do the fairer funding in England, which to our residents, if they knew that, which is bone of contention. Anyway, whizzing on. So business model, the old business model, please sir, can I have some more? Can I go to Westminster? And then the minister pours a bit more in yours and says, well, no, you can't have that, Margot, because I've just promised it to Walsall. No, you can't have it because I've promised it to Manchester. There's not enough in the pot of gruel to give you any fair shares anyway. And I got fed up with just saying, I wonder if we'll get more money next year. Because that's based on not controlling the future, not deciding on your way out of this. It's just relying on a ministerial whim of whether you'll get the money that you think you're owed. And I wanted to see if we could balance the budget by being more commercial, but I'll tell you that is commercial without being evil. It's not just commercial crap, public sector good, there's good in both and bad in both. And I wanted to be that across the whole council. It's not just your traded services earn the money and then the social workers will spend it all. It's everyone being more commercially minded, and I'll explain that in a minute. Because what I wanted is AVDC, scrub AVDC out, put Angus in, the best place to live and work. Who wouldn't say that? That's your why. You don't want people to come to Angus and say, this is the last place I want to live and I want to get out as soon as I can. In our case, the 200,000 population is 75,000 households, happy, thriving, telling their friends to come and live here, contributing to the economy. Who wouldn't want that? And world-class support for people who need it. And yes, that's with our county council for people, vulnerable people, but homeless, people that just want to go about their day safely and healthily. And that's really what we're here for. Costs a lot to not be visible. People don't trip over things in the street and don't die when they go to the local Indian. Hopefully not tonight. If I go out in Angus, that'll be all right, because you've checked it. We're here, aren't we? Helping people have a better day, and people don't really know we're here. We've stopped the things happening before. There's not waste in the streets. If there was, I think that was a Scottish experiment. One council stopped cleaning their market square for a day, but put it all in a cage, and it sort of went up like a waste thermometer. And people started saying, this is terrible. Yeah, but this is what you drop and we collect. Yeah, but there wouldn't be jobs if we didn't waste it. Yeah, but we don't want the jobs to collect your waste. Anyway, what if we could be council tax free? This was me a few years ago, 2023. It's a bit soon now. So, what if we could run the business without needing tax? Because as I said, tax, we only get 10% of the tax raised in Buckinghamshire. 90% goes to the county council, although that's a sister council and does things our citizens need. We get 150 quid a year from, 75,000 households. Well, that, what if we didn't need to rely on that, and we could scale our business according to the brilliance in our offer, rather than the imposed tax? It's just a question, isn't it? I'm not saying we're going to be tax-free, but what if we could be tax-free? Then we wouldn't be in the I pay my taxes, I know my rights. We'd be saying, what do you want in your world and what are you willing to pay for? Some things are free at the point of consumption. Other things, if you like our version of, an MOT or bins, or I'll show you some of the things we've done, then you trust us to charge you. Yes, because it's a services rendered. I want to actually replace all the cuts by so the 100 million we've sort of lost in the last 10 years, I want to replace with income generation, paying it forward to things that people want to see in their life. And I'm focused on the 4 things: our people, culture, trust from our customers, using proven business models, simple with things you can Google tomorrow. Basically, the market stall. Do you want it? Yes. How much? 10p, there you go. Simple business models, and absolutely crucially, digital to leverage and scale your business. So, whizzing on. Is that pace all right? Am I going too fast? Too slow? Hurry up. So, people. Another Sinek one, Margot. She's on her phone. I'm sure she's really listening. You know what chief execs are like. They're so fragile. Anyway, it's my headset. I'm getting all kind of cocky. You don't hire for skills. You hire for attitude. And a lot of you have gone through managers. Who's managers of people here? Well, most of you. You know the grind of someone's come, they're brilliant, but they don't behave brilliantly, but they don't go that easily, do they? They don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really bad attitude, I'm off by, capability procedures and all that. If you had the right people first, then you can teach them anything. I've got managers of customer, planning that are not planners, people, waste managers that have been res and bend managers. People, we all went to college once and learned something. We can all learn new things. And sometimes you need specialists that know absolutely everything but don't manage anyone, because, to be honest, they're not that good at that. And generalists that are brilliant managers that can harness and orchestrate the specialists. So, Sinek again, hire for attitude, because culture eats strategy for breakfast and everything else that goes with it. Margot, today, this isn't really about what you're going to learn about that wall and this wall. It's about being together and realizing you are part of a great team, and you want the best for the place. And you want the best for Margot, and Margot wants the best for you. And all the managers go with it. And no one's at the water cooler saying, load of old rubbish, you want to hear it. Go on, in the old golden days of Angus, hey, it was brilliant. There wasn't a golden age. It's always been rubbish, according to the people that want to see it rubbish. And they can't be with you. They can go and do a great thing and get someone else to pay them. Or you can invite people that haven't heard of how brilliant you are, and I'll explain how we've done this, that would never have thought in a million years to work for a council. A council, never worked for a council, but have come to us from John Lewis, Price Waterhouse, the dentists. I've even got a bra fitter from M&S. How about that? Anyone can, raise me on that? No, didn't think could. Because they've gone, hey, it's cool around here because they do great stuff and it's digital. I didn't realise this is a council. Yeah, but we're not like another council. And Angus won't be like that, because it seems like you've got culture eating strategy first. Digital on a culture that doesn't want it is a waste of bloody money. Anyway, all these things on the left, you can read them. You know, team, effective communication, this is part of it. I think you're going to have some celebratory things this week. Fantastic, giving back, because ultimately we're only as good as our customers think we are. All us saying whoopee, high five is no good if the customer's saying bloody council. So we imposed, yes I did impose. I've said, right, behaviours, I'm going to put all the council, we've got our waste crews internally, 450 staff through a behavioural assessment centre. The sort of thing that you don't get when you come to a job, or maybe you do. You always get the skills bit first, and then they go, well, you know, do you fit in? Yes, you're employed or not. And we based it on commercially minded. That doesn't mean, you know, rip people off. You look at these things. Customer focus and insight, that's just good anyway. Delivering results, maximising personal potential, critical through a conversational, not a performance appraisal, but a regular conversation, as many times called reach, which I'll explain. Building effective relationships internally and with partners to deliver great things, and innovating and adapting to change, to be commercially minded. And people went through a behavioural assessment centre. Most people actually enjoyed it and did it, even though they thought, I've never been on through one. Some people didn't want to go through it, and those are the ones that you knew that were ready to go, but never got found out. So 10% left us. We had a 30% turnover with new people in. So we put 3 million into this and made 2 million in the first year, but 2 million every year for the next 10 years. And we've got a number of techniques to keep that sort of behavioural, and then only then we had a structure and people applied for any job anywhere in the council, except mine, actually, I have to say. So I can explain this another time, but it's the culture wheel, the connected vision, where we want to get to, basically through those commercially minded, financially fit, community focused, and customer innovation. Our new structure. I didn't want to do this early on because I think structures make you cheat. You just put a structure together and think people are going to act differently. 75% of our people are in customer fulfillment. We just moved to, actually on a big bang, on January the 24th, 16, we didn't actually structure, we just said we're going to move because we've got a building where you can move people around. Caroline will know. With a virtual desktop, you go where you take yourself to the place. It's not an office, it's not your crumbs in your keyboard, it's not your aspidistra that no one's watered for 20 years, hacking through and finding a forward planner in there that was there from the last floor plan. Anyone forward planners in here? No. So we put, this is where income's coming into your organisation. If you read Organisational Physics by someone I can't remember, you organise the organisation where most of your customer activity is coming in. And the things to support it, be it business enablement or commercial strategy, are all costs to serve the customer. You don't just have a symmetrical thing of silos of professionals looking inward. That's just a clique of inward-looking silos. You design it around what your customer's asking for and the pace, and remember that exponential curve of when and how. And if they ask for something different next year than this year, that's the way it rolls, babe. You've just got to do it. It's not about, well, sorry, we don't have a government procedure for that. You know, you have to, so we've got all the kind of customer facing. Yes, you've got customer facing, you've got planning, regulatory. Everyone that's got anything to do with the customer went there on January the 24th, 16, and then we organise it from there. And we've got community fulfillment, which is, you know, your forward plans, your how the area looks, your water safety, you know, all the things that the community doesn't think they're paying for, but they are, that makes Angus look beautiful and stop, you know, a new motorway coming through the glens and those community issues. And then business support, commercial support, helping them, HR, helping community customer fulfillment happen. It's not just customer services. And I'll show, I think I've got a slide that I put in especially for Caroline, because she's going on and boring John about, sorry to admit that he was being bored with you saying AVDC every 2 minutes, about the triangle and the customer, helping themselves. This is the digital bit. So, our staff expectations are these: be ambitious, listen to each other, share ideas. You're going to do that with the TED Talks, collaborate. But trust, you can leverage trust. Your customers, actually, we've done some work on with a firm that had never done any work with a public sector before, but I wanted to bring in on value proposition design. What does people want to see? You know, what's the value of something? You know, what does it do for your day? Does it solve a problem you've got? Does it get Johnny to school quicker? Does it make you learn Latin in 2 minutes? You know, the value proposition is more than just how much is it. It's what it's worth to you. And so the work we did with some longitudinal studies of customers is that they thought you were pretty cool, that you did things well, that it was complex to pick the bins up every day. I think, so many bin lifts a day, you must be millions without dropping litter. Private sector would struggle to do that. And the trust, you mustn't just say, oh, we're not worthy, we're just the council. People actually want to see you doing more things because they trust you to get it right. Sometimes we're a bit cack-handed and amateur, but we can get better at that. You want a community that's looking out for each other, supportive. You want the money that's generated in the region, and that was in your video, staying in the region and multiplying and helping people lift all the boats in Angus's harbour. And you want customers to have choice. You want to go online, you want to say, I want to do this in this way. I want to bespoke the services from Angus, not deal with it from each department knows, the one person known 16 times across the whole of Angus, rather than you know me once and I want to do this today in my time, in my space, actually at 3 in the morning, and I want to go to, I don't want to have to work at the pace of the slowest part of the organisation, because you're here to serve them, not the other way around. So trust is critical, because you are trusted. Your managers are extremely capable and often don't realise we are, particularly in the commercial world, which is not just commercial, it's not, broadly income generating, and you can be commercial without being evil. John Lewis isn't evil as far as I remember. They don't sort of kill people when they come in, because you wouldn't go back. So, business models. Here's one, value proposition design. If you go to businessmodelgeneration.com, you see a little video. I Googled it. I was sat in Margot's equivalent office in my place 5 years ago, head in hand, saying, well, we've done all the efficiencyizing, we've cut it out, but then what next? How do you lift it to a new business model? And I just Googled business models, and this thing came up, and it's all about value proposition design. It's a canvas. That's A4 this way. In the middle is, what is it you're doing that people think, yeah, I engage with that. I actually would pay for that. And, you're a small entrepreneur. Let's sell, chocolate teapots. Will they melt? No, let's make them porcelain teapots. Okay, how would you supply it? How would you make it, supply it, the market? How would you get it to market? Then how do I get enough customers for it down the other side? And at the bottom, you've got red and black. It cost me this to provide it, and I got more than it cost me. Happy days, keep going. It cost me more to provide it than I got. Dragon's Den, forget it, stay in the bedroom and don't do it. It's basically that councils are on the similar trading account. We cost more than we earn by some margin. Council tax gives you a little bit, but it's not enough. You can't keep going hoping that the begging bowl will just tip more money into something that is actually too costly. Some of it will stay as costs. Social care costs could stay the same, could go up. You've got to get the whole organisation thinking of how it would start to marry that with value propositions around the different services you've got. Does it solve your pains? Mark, you should have gone whoop by now. Thank you. Kano, because there's not just enough. Kano model. People have the amount of investment you put in the service and satisfaction. People aren't going to go whoop, whoop, you picked the bins up and didn't drop any, because people expect you to do that. Where businesses are working with what the special things they've got, they're delighting their customers. The things they didn't expect to happen, happened. And they go, well, that's great, and I got this. So we've got to look at how we go beyond satisfaction, saying, well, it's good enough just to do this and hang on for dear life, to start delighting them. And it's not about, bunches of flowers every time you visit. It's basically things that are going forward with the grain of where your customers are going, and starting to give them things that they thought, that's pretty cool. That's a council that's looking ahead and thinking about my needs and adding things. It could be quite simple things, but they delight people. Think, I'm going to rate Angus. You can't live in two places at once. Angus is where they live. But they can rate you democratically, whether they vote for your elected members, whether they are satisfied, or they tweet that this is good. They invite their friends. More importantly, they invite businesses to come here, because this is way beyond where the service they would get if they were in any other part of Scotland. They would relocate here because the culture, the business model is enabling them to be delighted. Just a thought. I know it's hard, but that's the vision. So we'll work commercially through new, £100 million investment in the town centre. We built a Waitrose, a Travelodge, a university building, a theatre. Investing because we can borrow cheap, we can get you know, blue chip tenants like Waitrose, you can potentially borrow, I think in Scotland, can't you? Is that allowed? Sort of 2%, and if you're renting out at 7%, happy days. And you're creating a place in your town centres. We will work with creating value propositions, which we've done in the household. We've experimented with some household cleaning, and we went from where we had green waste to, do you want some bin stores to go with that, or some patio furniture? It didn't scale, because I think the customers are going, well, what's this? But we had some people paying us twice the annual council tax per month for cleaning services and gutter clearing. Because he didn't say, you're the bloody council, why are you coming to us? But they were actually happy. Is this a good service? Do I trust it? That's worth 300 quid. There you go. And so it is possible. We've experimented. It's possible for subscription services to start supplementing what you're doing. And you might have traded services very similarly. So we've launched a council lottery to supplement. We're the first council in the country to do that. We've now sold it to about 20 other councils, where basically you're supplementing grant expenditure on worthy causes, which comes from your council tax, by locally managed lotteries that, £1 a play, and then you say that's going to the cat's home and that's going to this in your local area, and then you get all the mums and dads around the school gate to buy those tickets because it's going to the... And, people didn't say, how dare you do that? They said, that's an amazing idea. And councils have said, can we have that? Yes, for a sum undisclosed. We can help you leapfrog some other things to get you with the Gambling Commission and get you playing. And now there's the Reigate Lottery and the Corby Lottery. And, you can brand it how you like, but that's how we started it. Green waste, we charged for that. A lot of councils didn't, and then found that they've had to stop it because it's just eating into their council tax. We charged a nominal sum, and then we had 17,000 out. I think Caroline was with us at the time. Suddenly went like that. People wanted two, because they didn't compost at home. And so that showed you that people, and we didn't only charge 34 quid a year. Well, it should have been £90 a year, and we would have managed it better. People are looking for options. Property portfolio, we turned planning of £1 million loss to £1 million profit, which is churned back into the service because we were spending £600 for every planning application we had that cost, the fee was 172 quid. Because the planners have always thought there aren't customers, there's just us, and we have to give permission. Any planners in the room? Upsetting people? But if there are no customers saying, I want that extension, and they're not paying a fee, then there's no money to pay. You don't just exist because of a God-given right. And also, if you give planning permission, there's 8 weeks after the baby's born that you want the loft for, the value proposition is pretty dead. And anyway, the builders buggered off to Spain because that's where they go when they're not working for you. And the architects charge you more than 172 quid. You've got to get it into the fee that you're being given. And that's what we've done on simple development management. And we're charging the developers for a growth area a lot for having a bespoke service. Council as a platform. Here's the digital piece. Connected knowledge, some friends will know Marivon Hassel that sort of invented this. Basically, we want to get to a point where we're predicting using data analytics to understand where customers will have problems before they've had it. It's like the kind of the film where the precogs know where the crimes are going to be. But there's so much in the private sector predicting what purchasing trends you've had already and will provide you offers and deals in advance. And then you're delighted because you think, oh, how did that happen? Well, it's because it's analysing the sort of purchasing data that you've already given them. In social care, if you can predict where Mrs. Miggins is going to go off her feet on 3rd of September 2023, then you can orchestrate your services to know that that's going to happen. The police are already using this predictive technology for a sort of crowd control in sort of hot Saturday nights in city centres. They know that that will kick off at that pub. They'll know where those people, and if they'll actually predict if the local football team has lost or won, will they have more or less officers on the beat? This isn't sort of sci-fi. This is how you're predicting. And then channeling scarce resources to things, rather than having an army of us ready for something, and then the goal scored over there, which is basically local government. With our My Account, you've got a My Account. Arcus have created this. You're hearing from them later. It's over 50,000 households now. We've only got 75,000 households. They can manage their own, sort of set up their direct debits. The taxi drivers can order their own MOTs. But it's also a platform for communication. I can instantly send an email to 50,000 people as you can, rather than, letter in the letterbox. Because of the My Account, going from cloud, I'll tell you, it's a platform. Government is a platform, and you've heard a bit about this. It's a platform that people then come and you can do traded services on that platform. You can get people to interact community on that platform. You're creating a digital platform which is much more scalable than the normal channels of standing at the street corner talking, or leaflets, or even your political. Look at some of the best. I know that charities have had a bit of a run-do recently, but charities have had to get into a more commercial mindset, even though charities are almost the archetypal sort of noble cause, aren't they? But they have to compete with each other, and many of you probably work tirelessly for this. Fundraising is important, donations, legacies. You know that if someone's died in your family, I know this personal experience, they're on you saying, I think you might have had a bequeath, and I think your mother-in-law used to, they chase it, perhaps a bit too much, but it's important because they've got, they generate large volumes of cash going into worthy causes, and no one thinks that they're commercial, but they are. They're using commercial mindsets. They're not a business, but they're being commercially minded. Digital. Well, it's all about the customer, Stu, but this is for Caroline. That's our we didn't have a normal hierarchy. Customer fulfillment at the front line. If they're not fulfilled, what's the point? Commercial in the middle to try and animate some of that to make us some money. Wrapped around business strategy and support. They're only supporting the customer interface. If there's no customer upsell in emotional terms, what's the point of you being a council? They're not paying you just to turn up and be paid well and have committee meetings and biscuits. What's that to do with them? Channeling them through self-serve, and then having specialists very far forward. This is probably Caroline designed this, probably did it on her laptop, did you? That's why it's a bit musty, because it's a couple of years old. And really this is the important thing, that customer services, which we've increasingly put machine learning and AI into that for people to be able to, transact in their time. I've just got to run, I've got the kids, my stereotypical children waiting in the car. I need it now, not kind of when you're open. But using data analysis to channel some of that, to predict and provide over time, case management, and an expert as far forward as you can get them. If you can get the most senior planner actually in the customer service say yes, no, I just need a decision, yes, no, not, well, we'll think about it on smoker, sort of a pipe, not that you would, well, you might do, sort of, back to Victorian times. I'll mull it over whether that architrave is 2 inches to the left, or whether, the neighbours won't like it. The neighbours aren't applying for the permission. They're conditioning it. Do your policies say, if this applies, you get it? Yes, no. I mean, it's binary. I mean, the algorithm won't say, well, we'll think. Alexa will think whether you need that or not. Anyway, this is probably what you're doing, but you've got to get multi-device. You've got to have things that people can do on their phone. People say, I haven't got a computer, but I've got a tablet. People don't actually think they're computers. Tablet, possibly in situ, places they can come into the office if they want. You've got to be getting feedback into the loop. It's got to be in real time or ahead of time. It's not going to be lag. People get very irritated. I've just heard about replacing additional services for car park machines. Who carries any cash anyway? I never have any cash. If it hasn't got a tap and go, you'd have to go park somewhere else. Yeah, okay, you're not going to stand there waiting for someone who's got some coins. I always think they're, asking me for coinage, but I haven't got any. So, always on. So we went to the cloud in 2013, one of the first councils to go with Amazon Web Services back in the day. Still 90% of all councils are not in the cloud, and we've got parts of it in the cloud. The cloud detaches you from the desk, the office, the building. It allows you to scale your businesses where your customers are in their time, and helps you rationalize your building footprint, your people footprint. They can work from home in the field. It's done wonders to reduce our footprint, as you'll know if you come and see us. Most of our office is a conference center. It's actually got fewer people in it. We didn't build a floor deliberately because we knew these technologies were coming. But that was just the first point, because with the cloud, it's secure. Amazon wouldn't sell web services to the CIA unless it was secure. But how many of us can all afford the security expert and the person with the magic screwdriver for the servers in the server room, keeping them as cold as, glacial prehistory in some room somewhere? that's being done for you. And you can have the best of the best of the best in your time and pay for it in your revenue costs, not your capital costs. It helped us with Arcus to launch My Account, which you're doing. But most importantly, to put web chat on the web chat channel. Our biggest convert is a deaf lady who felt that this means she can transact without having to wait for her partner to be at home. We've got Digital Genius, the first council, the only public sector customer of Digital Genius, which is a small San Francisco and London startup supported by Salesforce, putting machine learning into the web chat and email channels. That means that the agent who gets an inquiry about something reasonably complex, say a planning one, that you've always, sorry, I'm picking on you, but I always pick on planners, or a social care one, or let's think an environmental health inquiry that has some complexity about it, but you've answered it to someone 3 months ago, but it's new to you. It'll say, look, we're 95% sure this is the answer. Do you want to send it? And we implemented that. And now we're sending, we don't need to ask the agent because it's the answer. And people know they're talking to Digital Genius and they want the answer before they go to work or after work. And that's something that's scaling pretty quickly with Alexa, and that's called Connected Knowledge. And so I hope this will run as a little taster.
Ask my
this is
council
available
who
to
is
customers.
the leader.
Hi. The political leader of the council is Councillor Neil Blake, Conservative. The chairman of the council is Councillor Jenny Bloom, Conservative. The chief executive officer is Andrew Grant. He manages the council and is leader of the corporate board.
Alexa, ask my council for an assisted bin collection.
Is the assisted collection for you?
Yes.
Is this because of illness, injury, disability, pregnancy or old age?
Injury.
How many people live at the property?
1.
Do you declare that there is no one able to help you put the bins out?
Yes.
Tell me, on collection day, will your bins be found at the front, back, side of the house, or will they be on the driveway or near the garage?
On the driveway.
Hi. I am going to ask the council for assisted waste collection for the property Gatehouse Road, Aylesbury, Bucks. You have indicated that the bins will be placed at the driveway. ABDC will email you confirming the details. Have a super day.
That's going back into the Salesforce record for that house. She doesn't have to do anything more. And in a moment you'll see the waste crews. This isn't reworked. It goes back to the waste crews' daily roster from what they have to do. And you'll see in a minute the waste crew turning up to the front of the house, collecting it, and it's seamless. Now this is on offer to residents along with diabetic sharp collection. The take-up hasn't been massive. What's more important is people say it's great that it's there, but what they wanted instead was can they know what their bin day was. Now, to me, a bin day, you photocopy it and stick it on your fridge. But we had to start with 2 routines because we had, with the first council in the world to launch an Alexa skill. With these 2 routines, we had to guess what people might want. But quite often, you don't guess right because customers will tell you what they really want. There weren't enough people that needed assisted collections. What they really wanted to know is, Alexa, what's my bin day? Which is cool because you fail, but fail faster and add that, and we're now going to get that on. But then people will say, can we have something different? And they'll tell you, it's a bit like a new housing estate where you put the path in on a right angle and people walk across the grass. They'll tell you where they would rather go. But it's just enabling them to do it from the home because voice, I think in 2020, voice will be 30% of all web interactions will be voice, even though it's written for visual. Voice is the last thing to go in the home. And we're now launching, we've got an EU fund bid for using Alexa along with other assistive technologies like you are in the home to help vulnerable people and hope to develop more skill-based to help people do that first mile to the human, to the person with empathy and actually channel the right people to the right people and have someone talking with them. And yes, it's got some issues about, Alexa laughing in the background or telling, but people would rather have that, permit Alexa to have its data for a wider set of benefits than not have that and, you know, have to be phoned up to see how you are. So that alone has saved us. It's not just cost us, it's saved us. Of the 18 million we've taken out the business in the last 5-6 years, 6 million I think is simply because of digital. It's not just the bits of kit that you use, it's meaning you can change the way the whole council works. How many you have, people, where you work, why you work, how agile your customers are, and more importantly, how by digital you can open up paid-for lines that weren't there before because the value proposition is there. If it's getting something done that would otherwise be a pain, or doing something that's a gain, or some to-dos off the list, is something people value and we're happy to pay for. So, it's the income generation, like you, the 33 million are a bigger number of people. It's all the same percentage, so 30-40% of your budget. Income lines, 6 million. Efficiencies are still important, 11 million. Cuts in services, limited, which is good, and the unions like that, is 1 million. So we've had to balance those things off. And I started with the graph of doom. You're the first to see the graph of zoom. The bottom line, 12 million down to 3 million, is the cuts in grants from 2011, which is only last week really, to today. But our overall resources, because of the three things of efficiencies, income generation and slimming and infrastructure free, reducing your footprint, reducing, dare I say it, the number of people on IT, number of servers you've got, all the kind of things that have to be fixed to the floor, are releasing resources. So we've gone from 30 million to 35 million over the same point. And there's actually, whereas, you know, I was talking about things hitting the deck, we haven't gone up. That's for perhaps someone after me, but we've stopped getting worse and we've leveled out. If you were a pilot, you'd be quite happy. So quickly finishing off, large-scale change, most change management, most change things fail. So you've got to watch out for the engagement, theme, staff sessions, supporting strategies, you know, talk to your gums bleed, get back to your purpose, why we're doing this and how is digital helping us. Are we getting better? Are our customers happier? And just the last thing, just remind you don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. You don't need to read all the management books or have it all perfect. Members like to know, well, is it going to fail? Yes, it probably will, but fail fast and move on. Because staying still is going to fail anyway. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andrew. That was fantastic. Andrew's going to be around for a few hours, everyone, so please take the opportunity to have a chat, ask whatever questions you would like to. Disagree, challenge, yep, ask questions, but please do that. Our next session is starting in 5 minutes in the Sharing Ideas studio. It's Going Digital for Social Care, led by Gavin Keith. So you can find your way there through this exit here. But thanks again, Andrew.